Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special celebration, the 80th anniversary of the premier course of the United States Air Force, the Singing Sergeants. We will be your announcers this afternoon, retired Chief Master Sergeant Glenda Chapella and retired Senior Master Sergeant Joe Houghton, both former Singing Sergeants. And our host for this afternoon's concert is a former officer in charge and director of the Singing Sergeants, retired Lieutenant Colonel Craig Jessup.
It's difficult to imagine that this professional choir was evolved from a saxophone quartet. Yet that's exactly how the United States Air Force Singing Sergeants were born. It has grown to represent the highest level of musical performance and has emerged as a leader among professional vocal ensembles in the United States. So let's begin. Would you please stand as you are able as we honor America and sing our national anthem.
This very special event and celebration, an Alumni Weekend, was to be hosted by the United States Air Force Band and the Singing Sergeants, who were coordinating and working together with some alumni. But due to the government being shut down, and per regulations, they were not allowed to perform in general public information or in uniform. So as plans were already in motion, and we did not want to cancel, we know how to take care of business in other ways. So we put our heads together, and voila, here we are this afternoon, still on stage with the alumni hosting the event. And the current Singing Sergeants graciously volunteering their time to be with us, still allowing us to have a wonderful and memorable time working together, sharing history, and making history. Now in attendance this afternoon, we have the commander and the conductor of the United States Air Force Band, Colonel Don Schofield. And sir, we truly appreciate the decisions you had to make, the guidance, your leadership, and your support for this event. Thank you from the hearts of each and every one of us, especially the alumni. Thank you. We also have in attendance this afternoon from the leadership of the United States Air Force Band. We have Lieutenant Sconiers, who is the most recent officer in charge of the Singing Sergeants. We also have Lieutenant Gallant and Chief Ashiel, who's the flight chief of the Singing Sergeants. And we welcome all of them. At this time, would they mind standing for us so we can recognize them? All the staff and crew, to say thank you to 5 women in particular who work very closely with us, and that is, if you just raise your hands, ladies, for me, Amanda Palmiera, Hillary Grove, Ashley Keats, Katie Edelman, and Emily Wellington. These ladies are constant in our lives, just guiding us along the way. And I also want to thank my co-hosts, which are Barbara Lewis, Alumni, Linda Waring, and Joe Houghton, as we work collectively together. Yes, and then I must turn around and say thank you to each man and woman on this stage, because each and every one of them, and thank you very much for your willingness to share your time with us, the alumni, and all these wonderful people in our audience. Thank you.
All right, it's history lesson time. As with many great national treasures, the tradition began with a single step, and thus we begin telling the history of the singing sergeants. By 1941, the newly formed United States Army Air Corps had activated 59 bands into its operations. Among those was the band located at Bowling Field in Washington, D.C., that is now known as Joint Base Anacostia Bowling, or JBAB. This band began with a nucleus of 5 men, a saxophone quartet, and a conductor, Warrant Officer Alf Piper. But like all military bands during the war, our numbers grew rapidly. Before long, Captain Piper was commanding a 100-piece band of some of the finest players in the business, including tuba player Harold Tharp, who happened to really enjoy singing as well. Private Tharp organized a small group of these instrumentalists in an informal singing ensemble, initially for their own enjoyment during off-duty hours in the barracks. Captain Heiberg eventually utilized this group at concerts and occasionally on radio broadcasts as they would lay down their instruments and sing. They had no name yet and almost never appeared without the band, but they were nonetheless laying the single step for the foundation of what we would soon follow.
So before we continue with more verbal history, let's listen to some musical history as we reminisce and pay tribute to those who came before us by featuring a few familiar favorites from over the years that some in our audience may recognize, some may have fond memories, and some may still actually know from heart. The singers will begin with a selection that practically every singing sergeant has sung many times. The singing sergeant's opener, the Air Force medley. And then they will slow the pace a little bit with a beautiful arrangement of The Way You Look Tonight, actually arranged by a former member of the Singing Sergeants, Mark Turallo. And then we will have the beloved classic, You Raise Me Up, followed by the powerful spiritual, Moses Hogan's The Battle of Jericho. Ladies and gentlemen, the Singing Sergeant.